So let's start with a bit of a standard question here. How did you end up in the arbor industry?
So in my mind, there's two, like a pair of glasses, and you look through one lens, and that lens looks like a basic kid who went to college, had a hard time in school, and then dropped out, and was just trying to figure out what to do with his life, and liked the idea of climbing trees and got into the tree industry. But there's a deeper level, which is the other lens, is that same kid who had a tough time in college is me, obviously, but I was born deaf. And when I mean deaf, I know I can speak. So I think a lot of people misunderstand that because I can speak, that it might not be that bad. But I was born profoundly deaf, which basically means I cannot hear anything if I don't have my cochlear implant on, or before it was hearing aids. So, going through that journey in life in general, I've had great family, great teachers, great role models to guide me in the direction that I needed to go. They set up the perfect guardrails, like go do this direction, go this way, and you'll be successful. You'll be able to achieve whatever you would like to do. And I did that. I was what, kind of, for me, it sounds really strange to say it, but I was a good follower. I was never a leader. I was introverted. I was always a kid that was behind my mom. My mom would always speak for me. And as long as, I did certain things, it was like, you'll be fine. So I did those things the best I could. I followed what they said, and it got me to college. But when I got to college, the whole point of college is that you're supposed to be a young adult and be able to advocate for yourself. Yeah. But with my hearing, I was also a little bit like somewhat ashamed. You know what I mean? Like ashamed. Like I didn't really want to ask for help because I wanted to just be myself, and those guardrails weren't there anymore. So while it was awesome to be free, really quickly, inside of a year, really quickly, my academic abilities went down really fast. So it got to a point where I was essentially in a very dark place. I can't do anything. I don't feel like I can't push through. I just ended up in a really dark place, and I had to make the decision that it was better to go home than try to keep pushing through. And then more, in my mind, suffer more. So I went home, and when I went home, it was like the typical thing. What do you do? I don't have a degree. I don't have a job. I don't have anything. Luckily, I have a good family that's always like thinking of creative ways to help each other out. And my aunt actually called the deaf and hard of hearing school that I went to when I was a kid. When I was, I went there when I think I got there when I was 4 years old. But as a 4 and 5 year old, it's a school where you learn how to speak. It's listening and spoken language. So she called the executive director of that place, and they set up an interview with me. But the idea was the interview, I believe the interview was more of like knock some sense into him, make him go back to school because it's the best thing for him. But long story short is I ended up working there as a teacher assistant with deaf and hard of hearing kids that were between the ages of 3 and 6 years old. So it was the first time in my life that I got to be around other people like me. But now here I am, 19, 20 years old, hanging out with 3 to 6 year olds. The only time that I actually felt like I was connected to somebody else who had hearing loss.
Right? Yeah, but for me, it sounds like, you said you were a follower, but, in that instance, you became a leader.
Not yet. Not quite yet. I became, I love to tell the story because I finally felt like I was home. I was home. Now, this extra part of that lens is when I was a kid, my favorite thing is that everybody has a story about when they climbed trees when they were little, right? Even people that people are not in the industry, you could literally go outside and talk to anybody on the street and be like, hey, did you climb a tree when you were a kid? And they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I had this tree in my, you know, my uncle's yard, and there's some sort of story where we can all relate to, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, for me though, it was actually an escape from the heavy, sad feeling that I would have not being able to hear. So yeah, we all went out, we all had fun, but I was actually escaping. I was getting something out of that experience. So when we started getting older into grade school and high school, everybody stopped doing that. I didn't. And I'm talking about climbing without, you know, ropes or harness. I didn't know anything about it yet, but I started getting a little bit more bold and adventurous, with kind of like almost like an adrenaline junkie, like seeking for that like thrill. Because again, like it gave me a sense that I didn't feel like I was a deaf person struggling to make it in the hearing society. I felt like I was accomplishing something.